Chapter 5: Separation of Substances. Why do we need to separate substances? We need to separate substances from different components of a mixture to separate or remove impurities, to remove stones from grains or pulses, or to remove husk from grains. So the first thing that is very important, that is separate or remove impurities from a substance. Second, separate two different but useful components. For example, cream from milk, mixture of guava and mango, or guava or orange. Separate useful and non-useful components such as tea from tea leaves, pulp from juice. Methods of separation. There are various methods of separation such as hand picking, threshing, winnowing, sieving, sedimentation, decantation, filtration, evaporation and condensation. Hand picking. The process of separating solid particles from a mixture by using hand is called hand picking. So in this method of separation, we basically use our hands to remove or to separate solid particles. For example, separating stones from rice. Threshing. The process of separating grains from stalks by beating them on a hard surface is called threshing. For example, separating wheat grains from stalks. Winnowing. The process of separating lighter and heavier particles by using wind or blowing air is called winnowing. It is used to separate heavier wheat grains from lighter husk particles. Since the lighter particles get blown away with the wind and form a separate heap, whereas the heavy particles fall down. Sieving. The process of separating very fine particles from a bigger one by using a sieve is called sieving. It is used to separate bran from flour and pebbles from sand at construction site. Sedimentation decantation. When we allow the mixture to stand for a while, the sand settles down. This process is called sedimentation. When we carefully pour out water, this is called decantation. So when we allow the mixture to stand for a while, the sand forms a separate layer. So the formation of these two separate layers is known as sedimentation, whereas when we carefully pour out the water in another container, that process is known as decantation. Filtration. Filtration is a process by which insoluble solids can be removed from a liquid by using a filter paper. Evaporation. The process of conversion of water into water vapor on heating is called evaporation. So, the salt is separated from the sea with the help of the process of evaporation. The process of conversion of water vapor back into the liquid form is called condensation. There can be more than one method of separation required to remove the substances. Saturated solution. The solution that has maximum amount of dissolved solute in it and cannot dissolve further amount of solute at that temperature is called saturated solution. Let us take an example. Let us take a glass of water and we keep adding sugar to it. Till a certain amount the sugar would be dissolved, but after some time we see that sugar cannot be dissolved further in the liquid, since there is no space left, and hence the solution becomes saturated. But the solubility can be increased on heating, whereas cooling decreases the solubility. On heating, the space between the water molecules increases and therefore you can add more substance. whereas while cooling, the solubility decreases since the space between the molecules decreases. Summary: hand-picking, winnowing, sieving, sedimentation, decantation, and filtration are some methods of separating substances from their mixtures. Haskell stones could be separated from grains by hand-picking. Husk is separated from heavier seeds of grain by winnowing. Difference in size of particles in a mixture is utilized to separate them by the process of sieving and filtration. In a mixture of sand and water, the heavier sand particles settle down at the bottom and the sand can be separated by decantation. Filtration can be used to separate components of a mixture of an insoluble solid and liquid. Evaporation is the process in which a liquid gets converted into its vapor. Evaporation can be used to separate a solid dissolved in a liquid. A saturated solution is one in which no more of that substance can be dissolved. More of a substance can be dissolved in a solution by heating it. Water dissolves different amount of soluble substances in it and therefore is a universal solvent.